cloth moves in slow circles across the dull metal. Jack's weathered fingers work the same spot over and over, trying to bring life back to something that died long ago. The dog tag catches what little light filters through the dusty hangar windows, but it stays stubborn and dark. His gray hair peeks out from under the faded baseball cap, the kind you buy at a gas station for $5. The hangar stretches out around him like a metal cave, filled with crates and equipment that nobody uses anymore. This is his corner, his space where the world leaves him alone. Before continuing the story, let us know in the comments, what city are you watching this story from? 3 young soldiers walk past, their boots clicking sharp against the concrete floor. Their uniforms are pressed perfect, their gear shiny and new. One of them spots Jack in his corner and nudges his buddy. "Look at this old timer," the first one says, loud enough for Jack to hear, "still playing with his toys." The second soldier laughs. "Probably thinks that rusty junk means something. Guy can't let go of the past. Should have retired 20 years ago," says the third. "Waste of space, if you ask me." Their voices echo off the metal walls as they disappear around a stack of supply boxes. Jack doesn't look up. He just keeps polishing, like he's done every morning for the past 3 years. The dog tag reflects his face for just a second. Old, tired, forgotten. The distant sound starts as nothing more than a whisper in the air. Then it grows, the deep thump of helicopter blades cutting through the morning sky. Jack's hand stops moving. He knows that sound. Every muscle in his body remembers it. The hangar doors are wide open, and dust starts swirling in small circles on the floor. The sound gets louder, closer. Then the black helicopter appears, sleek and dangerous, dropping down toward the landing pad just outside. The rotor wash hits the hangar like a storm. Loose papers fly everywhere. Empty coffee cups roll across the floor. The 3 recruits come running back, covering their eyes from the dust cloud. But Jack stands up slow and steady. He slips the dog tag into his shirt pocket, right over his heart. The helicopter settles onto the pad with a final heavy thump, and the engines start winding down. The pilot climbs out, still wearing his helmet and flight suit. He pulls off the helmet and looks straight into the hangar. His eyes scan past the recruits, past the equipment, and lock onto Jack. The pilot nods once, small and quick. Jack nods back. The hangar falls quiet except for the tick-tick-tick of cooling metal from the helicopter. The recruits stand frozen, watching something they don't understand play out between 2 men who've never spoken to each other. For most people on the base, Jack is invisible. He's the guy who shows up before dawn and stays after dark. He sweeps the floors until they shine. He fixes broken crates with hands that never shake. He sits in the corner during briefings, listening to radios crackle with orders and updates from the field. The recruits call him names when they think he can't hear. Washed up. Has been. That old guy who can't let go. They figure he's some kind of groundskeeper who used to be military, maybe decades ago, and just never found his way to civilian life. The officers walk past him like he's part of the furniture. A few know his name, Old Jack, but most don't bother. They assume he's maintenance, maybe a contractor who keeps the place running. Nobody asks questions. Nobody looks too close. Ack likes it that way. He does his work, draws a small paycheck, and goes home to a 1-room apartment with no pictures on the walls. Every morning he comes back to polish that dog tag and listen to the sounds of a military base waking up. The night drill happens every month. It's supposed to test how well the new recruits work under pressure, in the dark, when everything goes wrong at once. This time, everything goes wrong for real. Bravo Convoy is halfway through the course when their radio dies. Just goes silent, like someone pulled the plug. They're stuck in a valley between 2 hills, surrounded by fake enemies with blank rounds, and they can't call for backup or extraction. Lieutenant Morrison is on the radio back at base, trying to raise them. "Bravo 1, come in. Bravo 1, do you copy?" Nothing but static. The convoy sits there in the dark, engines running, while the clock ticks down. If they don't check in soon, the whole exercise fails. Worse, they might get killed by the opposing force closing in on their position. Jack appears from the shadows near the radio tent. He moves quiet, like he's walking on air instead of gravel. Morrison doesn't even notice him until he's right there, looking at the radio setup. "Sir, I might be able to help," Jack says. His voice is calm, steady. Morrison looks up, surprised. "What? Oh, it's you. Look, we've got a real problem here and I don't have time to... But Jack is already opening the radio case, pulling out tools from his pocket. His hands move fast and sure, like he's done this 1,000 times before. He strips a wire here, twists a connection there. The radio hisses, then crackles to life. Bravo 1, this is Base. Do you copy? The response comes through clear as a bell. Base, this is Bravo 1. We copy you 5 by 5. Jack keys the microphone. Bravo 1, this island, Shepherd. I need you to listen carefully. His voice changes. It's still calm, but now it carries weight, command, the kind of voice that makes people stop what they're doing and pay attention. You've got hostiles moving in from the North Ridge. 2 squads, maybe 3. But there's a creek bed running east-west about 50 meters from your current position. You can't see it on your maps because it's seasonal, but it's there. The convoy leader's voice comes back uncertain. Shepard, how do you know about the creek bed? Because I've walked every inch of this training ground, son. Now listen, you're gonna back out slow and quiet. Follow that creek bed east for about 200 meters, then swing south. There's an old logging road that'll take you home. Recruits and officers gather around the radio tent, listening to Jack guide the convoy through terrain they didn't know existed, using call signs and procedures that went out of use years ago. His voice never wavers, never hesitates. He knows exactly where every hill, every tree, every hidden path leads. 20 minutes later, Bravo convoy rolls into base, safe and sound, having avoided the fake ambush completely. The exercise ends with a perfect score. Lieutenant Morrison stares at Jack like he's seeing him for the first time. The recruits who were making jokes about his rusty equipment an hour ago now stand quiet, not sure what to think. Colonel Hayes has been watching the night drill from the observation tower. He's the kind of officer who notices everything, remembers everything, and doesn't get surprised often. But tonight, he's surprised. He climbs down from the tower and walks straight to the radio tent. Morrison snaps to attention, but Hayes barely glances at him. His eyes are fixed on Jack, who's quietly packing up his tools. "Who fixed the radio?" Hayes asks. Morrison hesitates, glances at Jack, then back at the colonel. "Well, sir, it was me, sir." Jack stands up, meets the colonel's eyes. No fear, no shame, just quiet honesty. The recruits are watching now, expecting Hayes to chew out the old groundskeeper for interfering with military operations. Maybe kick him off the base entirely. Instead, Colonel Hayes does something nobody expects. He salutes. Not a casual salute, not a polite gesture. A real military salute, sharp and respectful, the kind you give to someone who's earned it. "Thank you for your assistance, Captain," Hayes says. The word hits the hangar like a bomb. Captain. Nobody knew Jack had been an officer. Nobody knew he had any rank at all. Jack returns the salute, and for just a moment, he doesn't look like a tired old groundskeeper anymore. He looks like what he used to be. Hayes holds the salute for a long moment, then drops his hand. "Carry on, Captain." He turns and walks away, leaving behind a hangar full of confused soldiers and one old man who's been hiding in plain sight for 3 years. Lieutenant Morrison can't sleep that night. The word captain keeps echoing in his head. Jack didn't correct Hayes, didn't act surprised. He just accepted it like it was natural, like it was true. Morrison has access to personnel files. It's not really his job to go digging through old records, but something about tonight has gotten under his skin. He makes his way to the archive office and starts pulling files. It takes him 2 hours to find it. The folder is thick with dust, filed so far back that it might as well be buried. The name on the tab reads Jackson William T. Not Old Jack, like everyone calls him. Morrison opens the file and his breath catches. The photos are old and faded, but they show a young man in jungle fatigues, standing with a squad of soldiers who look like they've seen too much. The face is definitely Jack's, but 40 years younger. His eyes have the same steady look, but without the weight of all those years. The mission reports are mostly blacked out, classified so high that Morrison's clearance can't touch them, but he can read enough to piece together the story. Covert operations, deep reconnaissance, missions that officially never happened in places the United States was never supposed to be. One report isn't completely redacted. Morrison reads it twice, then a third time, not believing what he's seeing. Captain Jackson led a successful extraction of surrounded personnel under heavy enemy fire. Despite overwhelming odds and no available air support, Jackson improvised a fighting withdrawal that saved 37 American lives, recommended for Silver Star. But there's more. Report after report of impossible missions, successful operations, lives saved. And then, suddenly, the file ends. No retirement papers, no transfer orders, no explanation. It's like Captain William T. Jackson just disappeared from the military records completely. Morrison closes the file and sits back in his chair. Outside, the base is quiet except for the usual night sounds. Somewhere out there, old Jack is probably in his corner of the hangar, polishing that dog tag. The story spreads through the base like wildfire. Not the details. Nobody knows those except Morrison, and he's not talking. But the word captain gets around. Soldiers who ignored Jack for years suddenly find reasons to walk past his corner of the hangar. They don't stare directly, but they watch him work. They listen when he talks to the radio technicians about frequency modulation and atmospheric interference. They notice how he moves, quiet and purposeful, like every step is planned 3 moves ahead. The 3 recruits who made fun of his equipment feel sick with embarrassment. They avoid the hangar entirely for a week, then start showing up again, hoping Jack won't remember their words. He never brings it up, never makes them feel worse than they already do. But everything has changed. The pilot of the black helicopter never says why he came to the base that day. His name is Chief Warrant Officer Mike Chen, and his service record shows 23 years of flying the most dangerous missions the Army can dream up. Men like Chen don't make social calls. After Colonel Hayes saluted Jack, Chen spent an hour in the base commander's office. Nobody knows what they talked about, but when he left, he walked straight to the hangar. Jack was in his usual spot, working on a broken radio that the repair shop had given up on. Chen walked up slow, like he was approaching something that might spook and run. "Billy?" Chen said quiet. Jack looked up. For the first time since anyone could remember, he smiled. "Hello, Mike." They talked for maybe 10 minutes, too quiet for anyone else to hear. Then Chen handed Jack something small. Looked like a photo, maybe a letter. Jack studied it for a long moment, then folded it carefully and put it in his shirt pocket next to the dog tag. Chen left without saying goodbye to anyone else. His helicopter lifted off and disappeared into the afternoon sky like it had never been there at all. But Jack kept the photo. Sometimes, when he thought nobody was looking, he'd take it out and stare at it. A few people got glimpses. It looked like a group of soldiers, young and serious, standing in front of a helicopter that might have been Chen's years ago. 3 weeks later, everything goes back to normal. Jack still shows up before dawn and stays after dark. He still sweeps floors and fixes equipment and listens to radio chatter from the corner of the hangar. But it's a different kind of normal. The recruits don't make jokes anymore. They nod when they pass him, respectful but not pushy. A few of the braver ones ask him questions about radio repair or field maintenance. Jack answers in his quiet way, showing them tricks that aren't in any manual. One morning, a young soldier named Private Rodriguez approaches Jack's workbench. He's carrying something in his hands, nervous about what he's going to do. "Sir," Rodriguez starts then stops. Jack isn't technically his superior officer, but somehow "sir" feels right. "Just Jack," the older man says, not looking up from the circuit board he's working on. "Jack, we, some of us chipped in and got you this." Rodriguez sets down a new coffee mug, plain white ceramic with U.S. Army printed on the side. Nothing fancy, nothing that calls attention to itself. Jack stops working and looks at the mug. Then he looks at Rodriguez, who's standing there red-faced and awkward. "Thank you," Jack says. "I'll use it every morning." Rodriguez nods and hurries away, but Jack can see him stop at the hangar door and look back, making sure his gift is still sitting there on the workbench. The next morning, Jack makes his coffee in the new mug. It sits next to his tools while he works, steam rising into the dusty air of the hangar. Nobody mentions it, but everybody notices. That same morning, something else changes. The flag outside the hangar, the one that gets raised every day at dawn, goes up a little higher on the pole. Not much, maybe 6 inches. The kind of thing you might not even notice unless you were looking for it. But Jack notices. He steps outside for just a moment, coffee mug in his hand, and looks up at the flag snapping in the morning breeze. He nods once, The same small, quick nod he gave the helicopter pilot. Then he goes back inside to work. By afternoon, the base settles into its regular rhythm. Soldiers train, officers plan, equipment gets maintained. The radio chatter fills the air with codes and coordinates and routine reports from units scattered across the training grounds. Jack sits in his corner, polishing the dog tag one more time before slipping it into his pocket. The new coffee mug sits clean and empty on his workbench, waiting for tomorrow's dawn. He stands up, checks his watch, and walks toward the hangar doors. His shift is over, same as every day. Tomorrow he'll be back before sunrise, ready to sweep floors and fix broken things and listen to the sounds of a military base coming to life. The afternoon sun slants through the open doors, long golden rays that turn the dust motes into tiny stars. Jack walks through the light and shadow, past the equipment and crates, past the spot where 3 young soldiers once made fun of his rusty gear. At the threshold, he pauses and looks back. The hangar stretches out behind him, empty now except for the machines and supplies that keep a military base running. His corner looks small from here, just a workbench and a chair and a place where an old soldier found something like peace. Jack pulls his faded cap down a little lower and steps into the sunlight. His footsteps fade on the concrete, heading toward the base gate and the world beyond. By evening, most people will have forgotten he was ever there. But tomorrow morning, he'll be back. Invisible again, unnoticed again, doing the quiet work that keeps everything running smooth. The dog tag will catch the early light, the coffee will steam in his new mug, and somewhere in the radio chatter, he'll hear the voices of soldiers who trust their equipment to work when their lives depend on it. That's enough for Captain William T. Jackson. That's all he ever needed.